So this happened last year. CB is my neighbor. In my small ruralish neighborhood, there are 5 properties on our side of the street. We each have an acre. There is a road in the front of the properties, and running in the back of the properties is a creek. On the other side is a provincial park. My neighbor is very scared of bears coming onto his property. I haven't seen a bear in 5 years that I've lived here, but he's convinced they are going to get on his property, kill him, ruin his property, make life hard for him. About a year and a half ago, he starts on about building an 8-foot fence along the rocky, hilly shores of the creek to keep all the bears out. He tells us he's been talking with the rangers from the park and that they have agreed to it, and on top of that, they will pay for it. I say fuck no, I like the creek. He gets angry, goes home, but quickly comes back the next day saying his lawyer will contact me. A man contacts me, telling me he's a lawyer and that the fence will be built for security of the neighborhood. Here is where I was stupid. I rolled over and believed him. So it dies down for about 3 months, but then a contractor shows up walking the property. I go and talk to him. He says a fence that spans the entire distance, that's 8 feet tall, going over the rocky outcrops, will cost around $300,000 and will probably need yearly maintenance. Also, the bears can just climb that shit as easy as taking a dump. I say, well, at least the province is paying for it. He says, what was that? Your neighbor said the 5 property owners are splitting it. I immediately run to his house. I say, what happened to the province paying for it? He says I never said that. At this point our relationship is ruined. I tell him to fuck off with his fence. He says you have to pay or the bears will get in. I just leave. About a week later he tells me he's no longer letting his kids go to school until I agree to pay for the fence. I tell him again to fuck off, that's his problem. He's telling them that it's my fault they can't go to school because I won't agree to the law. My kids know his kids and they tell my kids that they know it's their dad's fault. He then gets his fake lawyer to call me again. Can't fool me twice. Tell the guy to fuck off and he says he will ruin my life. I just laugh. Still no fence, never will be one. My neighbor is furious. Makes my day every day. Some background, my mom was definitely down on her luck. Her parents practically disowned her when they found out she was pregnant with my amazing big sister, only to come back into her life like nothing happened when my sister was born. My mom also found out she was pregnant like 5 months into her pregnancy because she still had a period, wasn't gaining weight, and didn't have morning sickness. So imagine her surprise when at a physical exam while preparing for the army my mom was told she was pregnant. This left my mom basically completely on her own for around 4 months. The only person in our family who talked to and supported my mom in this time was my aunt. Eventually after my sister was born though, and my mom still didn't get much help. My family didn't really care for my mom, they just wanted my sister. My mom struggled her ass off to take care of my sister before she was even born. She was working 3 jobs and still couldn't afford a place to stay. At the end of every week she would buy something a baby would need, a thing or diapers, a pair of clothes, anything, because she didn't want her baby to be neglected because she couldn't afford things. She went to soup kitchens and was a recipient of multiple charities. That continued even after my sister was born. I should mention, during this time my mom was a full-time student who was working her ass off to get an associate's degree in nursing. And to give my mom credit, many of her teachers told her she wouldn't graduate. She did. And she did it to take care of my sister. Because my mom was working and going to school, she needed a babysitter, but didn't know if she could afford one. One of the people my mom worked for though, told her about people who babysat her kids. My mom was desperate and immediately went to the people that I later on in life would call Nana and Pop. So needless to say, it went well. These people went above and beyond though. They offered my mom an insanely cheap price to sit, and when my mom asked if she knew any cheap places nearby she could stay, after explaining her situation, they let her buy an old trailer they owned for a little over $1,000. She of course was allowed to make payments and would need to pay for the lot it sat on, but they also gave it to her furnished. Long story short, when my mom got back on her feet, she bought a better house and it was time to sell the old trailer. My mom had been approached by an old friend who asked if my mom knew a cheap babysitter and place to stay. My mom saw herself in the woman that asked her. So my mom made a decision to rent out the old trailer to this woman, her husband, and their 2 kids, one of which was a newborn. My mom took a few pieces of furniture that Nana and Pop were insistent we take with us, but otherwise she left it furnished for them. The family told my mom that they planned to buy it in a year, and after a year was over they sadly couldn't afford the agreed upon price. They said they would pay for another year of renting and then they would pay to buy it. Apparently they were very desperate. My mom told them to calm down and that she would just give it to them. They tried to force my mom to take the money that they saved to buy the place, but she turned them down. She wanted to pass the good karma on, I guess. Apparently this family told a few friends about their guardian angel, aka my mom, who gave them a trailer after they rented it for a year because of how many financial issues they were facing. But an EP, entitled Parent, apparently didn't think that this was fair. She snooped around and found our address and knocked on the door of our house. My dad opened the door and asked if she needed anything. The exchange, as I'm told, basically went like this: EP, yeah, I need this house. D, excuse me? EP, your wife gave a house to a friend of mine and because I have a kid I need a house too. I want this house. My dad then slammed the door in her face. This lady proceeded to keep banging on the door. This time my mom answered while holding my 4-year-old sister. Why are you banging on my door? EP, are you, mom's name? Yes. EP, you owe me your house. What? EP, you gave, friend's name, a house because she has kids. I have a kid, I deserve a house. Look, I don't know who you are to come to my house and demand that I give it to you, but you need to leave. EP, that isn't fair, you gave, friend's name, a house. A, that was a completely different situation, and B, I don't owe you a damn explanation. EP, you owe me a house. I have kids. I owe you nothing. Now get off my property before I call the cops. She didn't leave. But the cops were called and she was escorted off the property. She apparently came back a few times, but my mom ended up filing a restraining order. She talked to the people she gave the house to, and the lady that harassed my family was practically blacklisted. At that time we lived in a small town and everyone knew what she did. No one wanted anything to do with that. EP, I work at a car dealership, and we were celebrating the shop foreman's birthday today. He asked me to make him cupcakes and I happily obliged, making 5 dozen for everyone. I was up until the wee hours of the morning perfecting them, and proudly set them out in the break room, knowing they are always the first thing everyone heads for. However, apparently my cupcakes are not up to par for the new kid in parts. I watched him take a bite, scrunch his nose up, and spit the cupcake out on the tray next to the rest. New kid is NK. Are you okay? Are you allergic? NK, these are disgusting. I was told we would have a professional baker making these. A little hurt but not wanting to blow up on the kid, I always am the one to bake for our parties. NK, what's the point of having a party if you don't have cupcakes from expensive bakery 25 miles away? I'm sorry you don't like them, I've never had a problem before. NK, well, these techs eat anything in front of them, even those dry cupcakes. Okay, then just don't eat them. I don't know how it was at the other places you've worked, but if you're given free food here, you don't complain. NK, whatever, no one else is even going to touch these. He stormed out and I rolled my eyes, thinking he'll just drop it. Sadly no. I was called in by HR later that day, saying we had an anonymous complaint. Apparently I had refused to let him eat any of the cupcakes, telling him to go buy his own. The complaint was instantly dropped, but I'm still amazed as to how entitled this kid, who has been working here for less than a month, can be.